Well, I'm Dave Lorenzen. I'm the Director of the Systems Operations Division with the DOT, and today we're sitting down and visiting with LaDonna Havick and Chelsea and Hannah, and also Kathy Mather, Executive Assistant with the DOT, is with us today too. And we're here today just to talk about a program that we've recently launched, the Shawn Havick Memorial Response Program.
Yep.
And we're excited to have some conversation with you guys about that. And one of your requests as a family was that you had some memorial funds that would be used for a Iowa DOT roadside maintenance accident crisis awareness program. And
Yeah.
you mentioned in Sean's obituary that the DOT maintenance crew members are often the first responders at vehicle crashes, and they have to provide assistance and first aid to crash victims until sometimes the EMS folks arrive. And those accident scenes can have some long-lasting effects, and some effects that we don't realize. And I think, you said in the obituary, we hope we assist in making the needed training and emotional support available for those everyday heroes. I like the fact you call them everyday heroes. Because
They are. They're everyday heroes. We can't get to work safely. We can't drive down the roads without having them maintain the roads, fix the roads, do those kind of things. I know that there's always been this stigma around DOT workers that, I don't know, appropriate or inappropriate, but to us, they're kind of heroes. That's the way they've always been. So a couple of years ago, very sad situation for us, our Shawn found out he had cancer, and through that became a lot of pain. And we've always heard about the traumatic accidents and different things, and the semi sliding sideways down the interstate, and this car going off in front of them, or that car, or this family, or this husband with a watch and a wedding ring, and just everything that makes those situations so personal.
You know, I feel like it put a lot of pressure on Dad to make the right decision in his best judgment. And when things happen or somebody does slide off, he took that so personally every time. And regardless, even though he did the best he possibly could, he still felt it so personally each time.
So some of the things we noticed as the cancer kind of just started to take hold was his level. Shawn was always happy-go-lucky, zest for life, kind of a jokester at times.
At times.
At times, well.
Most times.
Most times. But as we noticed the cancer and the pain started to take on, we were noticing more of just his withdrawal from people. A part of that's the cancer, we understand that, but there was an underlying condition that we were noticing, and we had him visit with some folks about that. He didn't want to visit with folks about it. He was very private. It was very serious. Not something that he was
Not super open about.
No, not super open about. So as we started with the cancer treatments, and we started with down this path, which is a journey, and we noticed that he started to become more withdrawal, which is part of the cancer. That is kind of a cancer thing. But the pain levels that he had were true pain levels, but they became deeper and more traumatic than what the doctors even thought maybe they should be. So they suggested that he visit with someone. He was not for it at all. He was pretty private when it came to that kind of thing, big tough guy, and didn't really want to have those deep conversations. So we kind of suggested that it would be the best thing for him to do. And we met with the University of Nebraska Medicine psychiatrist and therapy team. And that therapy team kind of went on a road to explain to us a little bit about PTSD, and how PTSD doesn't necessarily happen right off the bat. It might come months later, it might come years later. But it's a trauma that you saw, like maybe a natural disaster, violence, maybe from an accident, things like that. And since it comes years after the event, it slowly becomes a level. And I think I explained that to you, that it seemed like each time there was another accident, it put another level on, and then another level on. And as the time went on, it just kept building and building. And so as he had that, they were explaining to us that the symptoms of this were these nightmares and unwanted memories and flashbacks, which I think related to this not sleeping at night and avoidance and kind of going to the shop and working. When he wasn't working, he was working in the shop or staying busy. But during that, they tend to avoid places, people, situations that associate with that. So like driving the roads, like the girls telling them, don't drive the roads, stay off the road. So he started to have that more and more from early days. And so we were just noticing this level. Loss in activities, things like that. So he was taking and internalizing so much. And then kind of being almost agitated and irritable and things like that. So we kind of learned that through his disease process of this cancer, that earlier trauma kind of actually added to this layer. And so as a family, when the days started to become near, I took my mother-in-law to the side and visited with her and said, hey, what do you think about this? Girls and I have been talking about, instead of flowers, we would like to do something special for Shawn's family, the DOT. And so that's kind of how this came about.
What are some things that employees of the DOT don't realize throughout their careers? I mean, Shawn was with the DOT for what, 31 years?
Yeah.
That's a long time. We have a lot of long tenured staff.
Yeah.
What are some things they're not realizing?
I think the layers, that events that happen, that you have one event early on, there was an accident near Boca with a local person that I think brought a sense of responsibility. I don't think that they think of how that responsibility affects them and what they feel deep inside. It's a job.
Yeah, for them, they go to work every day, just like how everybody else goes to work, does their job. For them, they go and do their job, but I don't think deep down they're realizing the toll that it's taking on their heart and on their brain. And then we see it, through us. We're like, well, why can't I go to my friend's house when it's snowing outside? Like, you don't think it's that big of a deal, but him seeing all those accidents, he maybe saw an accident of a 21-year-old girl,
I also wonder, if he was short with us or frustrated, where would that maybe have been coming from? Did he have a tough day that we as young kids, teenagers, had no idea or empathy for whatsoever at the time? But yeah, did he just come off a hard accident and just wanted to keep us close and safe?
So, and this next part may be a little tough for you, and we appreciate that. But and respect that. But if Shawn were sitting with us here today, what would he say about this topic?
Yeah, I'll join in, but I think the girls, they have some good feelings on this.
Oh, I think it was definitely hard for him to talk about often. I think whether we were young kids and he was protecting us from the trauma he carried and, had a hard time expressing, but later on, and as he was progressing and even after we had decided to transition to hospice, I know he definitely seemed to be reflective on how it impacted him in ways that maybe he didn't even realize, prior to then. It's easy looking in reverse, looking back at something and saying like, oh yeah, I might have been, holding on to something at that, or maybe that impacted my decision making more than I realized once you're past those decisions versus, when you're actually making those decisions in the moment. So yeah, I would like to think and hope that he would think this is really supportive and taking care of the guys he loves so much.
Now seeing, looking at the outside looking in, because he was so close to retirement. And so I think was where he was kind of getting there too. He was like seeing how much it impacted him, that, some of these young guys that are just starting out in the DOT, hopefully getting them that help that they need to begin with, and then hopefully seeing them be able to have a very successful career in the DOT and not carry all of that trauma that he did. Yeah. So, then, because he says sometimes when he did start to talk through it at the end, he's like, some people just know what to ask.
Yes.
So if you had maybe had somebody kind of in the field already that knew those questions and knew kind of triggering points, but just enough to maybe get some relief from it. I think we're thinking hopefully this program can definitely help those guys share some, but maybe not too much what they're comfortable with.
Mhm.
But
Yeah.
Kind of a bookend program to get them the tools. I guess we all talk about tools in our tool belt, right?
Yep.
So tools to help them to mitigate the situations as they come. But when those situations come and they become too heavy or hard to handle, or they start to maybe think about, maybe after seeing this, that they start to think about, how is that affecting my life? That they know that they can turn to their supervisor, to their employer, the DOT, and say, hey, it's just a bit too much.
So you'd mentioned earlier that, when it was a little tough for Shawn to kind of let that vulnerability come down to really start to address that.
yeah.
So
Oh,
what
yeah.
would be your message to, and we probably still have employees like that today that won't let that vulnerability down, right?
Absolutely.
It's not easy.
It's not easy. So what's your message to the staff? Why should they take advantage of this training, put this in their toolbox and utilize it? What would be your
I think it's
your
more
message?
preventative, so yeah, things are happening now, but as we can see firsthand, the damage that it had caused from just letting it build up. So instead of letting it build up, giving them that outlet now, I think it's more preventative care than reactive care. So, giving them somebody to talk to will definitely help them in the long run now versus attempting to break down the wall of all the trauma later on. I think it'll definitely help, DOT workers, definitely try to take it one step at a time instead of one big leap at the end.
One jump. Yeah. And I think too, so growing up female and with sister, right? I have a little boy now. And so as I'm raising him, kind of seeing just stereotypes and, boys are supposed to be tough and strong, right? Like you can't be vulnerable. And seeing that as a weakness, I think can be really hard because the courage it takes to kind of overcome that stereotype is huge. To be vulnerable is actually a very courageous act. And I think it doesn't get nearly enough, credit where credit's due there. So yeah, I hope people can, male or female, whoever, can take that and, know that taking that courage to be vulnerable and put in that work, it's very uncomfortable, but it can really benefit them in their lives at home, plus their work as they
Even
show up every
responding
day.
to each other as coworkers, I think.
Yeah,
Being an okay to say to someone that maybe as a coworker that says,
yeah,
you know what? I can
okay to
tell
not
you're
be
kind
okay
of
with things.
irritated today. I can tell you're irritated today, and we had that big accident yesterday.
yeah.
Do you think you should go visit with someone? I'm
Are
just.
you okay?
Are you okay? Are you okay?
Yeah.
And I know that it's kind of, it's the tagline right now. It's okay to be not okay, but it really is okay to not be okay and ask for that help. And maybe as a coworker or a buddy, a friend or someone, it's okay to say to that guy, hey, that was a pretty big deal yesterday. Are you sure you're okay with that? And if you're not, remember we got that program, you can get help. And being coworkers to just boldly say that and know that it's an acceptable thing to be that, like she said, vulnerable and ask those questions to that friend that you see maybe struggling.
Good. Well, thanks for sharing that. So,
Yeah.
and the boy's name is, you gotta tell us.
Yeah, Shawn Dayton, baby Shawn.
Baby
Yeah,
Shawn.
baby
Shawn.
That's really neat.
You'll hear a lot about Grandpa.
He's gonna hear a lot about Grandpa. Grandpa is a pretty special guy, very special guy.
Well, and one of the things that all of us hope to have in life is that we leave a marker in life that can make life better for those that are coming behind us. And then, as a family, you can rest assured that this program is going to make a difference in people's lives. As we visited about last week when we were on the phone with Donna, is a lot of times you won't even know the individuals that it's affected.
Sure.
And you won't know the names of those people. But that's okay,
That's okay.
because they know that because of what your family's done, they've had this opportunity. So
Yeah.
you guys are always going to be family with DOT.
That's
So,
good. That's
Good.
good. We really appreciate everything you guys have done.
Yeah.
We really do. You guys have taken a vision that we had from our hearts. And on behalf of my mother-in-law and father-in-law, I know that they are very just pleased to see Shawn's legacy continue with the DOT. So.
Good.